Okay, before we get started, anybody have any specific problems of a technical nature that you're dealing with? Let's see, who's that? And then if you bring up a subject right now that I'm going to cover later, then we'll postpone it. So it'll be in sequence with everything else. Otherwise, we'll move ahead. Today is just going to be an orientation. Since this is probably your first time taking a class from me, you'll want to know something about the course before we get into the subject matter. So what I'm going to do first is share the syllabus. And I'll point that out when I get to it. I've made a correction today that you may not have in your documents, but it's in Blackboard. Here we go. Share the screen. Okay. Now, I want to minimize that. And let's make it a little bit larger. About that. And we can do better. About that. And then we'll spread it a little bit. There we go. Okay. So everybody probably already knows that this is Chem 101, which is the first in a 2-semester sequence of general chemistry. And this is just the lecture session. And all but one are registered for the lab. And what I'm going to do is cover just the lecture in this part. And I've got if you go to Blackboard and Chem 103, do a similar Zoom connection to the way you got to this one. There's a Zoom in the left-hand border. You click on that, and then you'll find the Chem 103 Zoom connection, the link. And at let's see, 3:45 this afternoon, I'm going to open that up, and at least for today, if you can make it, we'll do a lab orientation as well. Then after that, the other lab connections, the other links that are in there are voluntary, right? You can show up and have questions for the lab, then I'll be there for that hour from 3:45 to 4:45. But it's not mandatory. Not like the course we're in right now. I just wanted to get that out to be sure I conveyed that to everybody. Okay. So this is going to be, we're going to meet every Monday and Wednesday at 2 o'clock for an hour and 3/4. And assuming I can finish everything in an hour and 3/4, fine, that's good. But sometimes I run long, and if I do, then since every Zoom session is recorded, I just keep talking, and I finish the material that I'm supposed to finish, that I plan to finish in the schedule. And then if you have to go, like if you have employment obligations or family obligations or whatever, then you can go ahead and leave, that's fine. And then come back and watch the video once I post it to Blackboard and pick up anything that you missed in the process. So as long as you're here for that hour and 45 minutes, you're counted present. Okay, so I assume everybody has purchased Cengage Unlimited, and that'll give you access to the electronic textbook and to the OWL homework. And when you register for the OWL homework, you go in, I'll show you that in Blackboard in a little bit, but you have to do it through Blackboard. Otherwise, your grades are not linked to Blackboard, and I'll never see them. If you like a hard copy, you know, I'm old school. I like a hard copy book. I got a bunch of them laying on the floor here. Then you can purchase, this is the hard copy information. You don't have to have it because you're going to have the textbook with Cengage Unlimited. And of course, the other nice thing about electronic textbooks is they're searchable, right? So if you've got some term in mind and you want to find out about it in your textbook, you can search for it. You don't have to look through the index or look through the table of contents or call somebody up and ask them. You can always find it. But I do like to have a hard copy. I've got a bunch of them on my shelf and a bunch of them in boxes. Any textbook I ever had going to school, I still got it. Okay, other things that you're going to need. You need a calculator, and you need one that'll do scientific functions. So I list the functions here, but to make it simple, if you just go find a calculator that says scientific on it, on the package, you'll have everything you need. The reason I put these other things in here, like scientific notation, roots, powers, is because I want you to know how to use those functions, because we're not going to spend any time in class learning how to use your calculator. There are too many flavors of calculators out there. You've got to become proficient with your calculator, how you put numbers in. If you want to put numbers in standard notation, fine. But if it converts it to scientific notation, you have to set that up. So the calculator will know how to display your answers. Or if you have a number you want to put in scientific notation, you need to know how to do that. You need to know how to do roots. Most of them have square root keys, just one punch. But if you need to do a cube root or a fourth power root or fifth power root, you need to know how to do those too. And each calculator is different. Powers, same way. How do you do the powers? It might be something like a key that says y to the x. So that means you have to put in one and then you have to put in the other to tell it to do the power. You need to know how to use the log key. Right? Find the log. Usually above the log, as a function key of the log, is 10 to the x, which is another way of saying anti-log. So if you think back to your math classes, what's the definition of a log? And then the converse of that, the anti-log, because you'll need to be able to use both of them. And when that comes up in the course materials, I'll reintroduce the subject and refresh your memory. So no panic, just learn how to use those keys in your calculator. On exams, don't use your cell phone. Cell phones these days are way too smart. So you can look up anything on a cell phone. So use your calculator. And I'll show you later that where I have the exams posted in Blackboard, along with them in the folder are other documents that you can access, legally access, and you're not cheating. They're useful information, and I'll show you where all that stuff is found once we get to Blackboard. But I just wanted to go, I'll breeze through the syllabus now, hit the high points, and then really, once you get into Blackboard, that's where we find out, you know, where things are located. Just a second, this is bugging me. There we go. Let's see, other materials you're going to need. Actually, you won't need anything else. You just need access to, well, of course, if you're on Zoom now, you've already got a webcam and a microphone, so that's a moot point. In order to connect through Zoom sessions. Depending on where you live, your power supply or your internet connection might be up and down. So we'll talk about that later, what to do in case, especially if you're in the middle of doing something that may require my intervention if you get kicked off. Okay, this stuff is, you can read that if you want. It just talks about the goals that we're aiming for in the course. And those are topics that'll be covered. Those are not necessarily in order, though. If you want to know what things are, how they come in order, we'll do that in the course schedule in just a second. There will be regular chapter exams, and I'll show you how they're delivered. What I wanted to do for this course this semester, and I didn't have time to set it up, was native Blackboard tests. So you can go into Blackboard, you can start a test in Blackboard, finish it in Blackboard, and Blackboard will grade it for you. That would be great for me, but I couldn't get it set up in time. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. It's a little more cumbersome, but it still accomplishes the same goal as telling me what you know. Homework, of course. You need to get signed up with Cengage OWL through Blackboard, and you should not need a registration key of any kind. If you enter Cengage through Blackboard, it will recognize you because the Blackboard course is linked with the OWL homework. So once you're in Blackboard and signed in, then you go to OWL, it knows that you're supposed to be there. Let's see. So here's the grading scheme. Let's see. Your chapter exams are worth 57%, and then the final exam is 13%, which should add up to 70%. It's based on exams. And your homework is worth 20%. So you can rack up some points just by doing the homework. You can get credit for showing up. So I'm going to have to be strict with attendance, right? If you're going to get credit for it, I need to be sure you're here. And then there's a syllabus test. That should be an easy 1%, because you can have the syllabus in front of you. That's okay. And when you're taking the test, you can look up the stuff. That's not cheating. Just be sure when you read the questions that you understand what the question's asking for, because I've been known to be tricky. Occasionally, not all the time, just every once in a while. Okay, here's the course schedule. I should have put schedule up there. Calendar, I guess that'll do. It gives you the days and the times, right? It gives you the Zoom ID and the passcode. This is a new passcode, and if you came in through Blackboard, you didn't need that stuff because the link takes care of it for you. But I've had students that they got caught out somewhere. You know, they couldn't get to their usual laptop or PC at home or wherever they connect, so they didn't have access to Blackboard. So say you have a cell phone with you, and you have this information also with you, of course. There's an app that you can load on your cell phone that will, it's the Zoom client. And once you open that up, it'll ask you for the meeting ID and the passcode. And there they are. And you can connect with your cell phone. And you can at least be present. You may not have all the functionality of a laptop or a personal computer, but at least you can be counted present and get the experience. Okay, so here's the schedule. These are the days that we'll be meeting, Wednesdays and Mondays, of course. And these are the topics that we're going to cover each day in the right-hand column. All right, so next Monday, we're going to go through chapter 1. And on the following Wednesday, we'll hit chapter 2. And then the Monday after that, I said there are lots of opportunities for buffer days, you know, in case we need to push these topics into another day, then it's there and available for us. And then we'll have a review day that's usually the time we meet before the exam is due. So there's a review day on February 3rd that'll cover chapter 1 and 2. That's exam 1. And on this day, February 8th, no later than, they don't let me do midnight, so 11:59 is the deadline for that. You will have your homework submitted and exam 1 completed. Now, since both of those are done online, we're not going to have exams in class. In other words, when we meet here, we're either going to be reviewing or introducing through lecture. So you can, whenever you feel ready to do the exam, most of my students wait till at least we get through the review. And then anytime after Wednesday would be a good time whenever you feel comfortable.
This call is from the Department of Social Security Administration. This
Junk calls, sorry. You can take the exam at your leisure with one proviso. These exams are set up so that they will not open until you have completed the assignment before then. So this syllabus test, you have to complete that. And once you have a grade in the grade book, then it's called adaptive release. Blackboard recognizes that the grade is there for that assignment, and it says, okay, exam 1 is open now. And then before you can do exam 2, you've got to complete exam 1 and get a grade for it, and then exam 2 will open. Okay, that's the pattern. Okay, so you can, there are other things in here that I put in just for information, like when is spring break. So I grade that one out because we're not going to be meeting those days. But also that gives you an indication. Here's mid-semester grades are due to the registrar on the 15th of March. So that's when I have to have your midterm grades submitted to the registrar. And anything above that is what I use to average your grade. So you can see what's important for that midterm grade up through exam 3, chapter 5, and the homework that goes with it. And then, of course, we have down here, final grades are due to registrar. I should have graded that one out too to be consistent, but school's over then anyway. And there's this one right here is important for some students. If you find yourself in a bind for some reason and you don't want to stick it out till the end of the semester, thinking that there's no way that you can pull this out, then that's an important date, April 16th. You can withdraw by that day with a W on your record rather than a letter grade that you may not enjoy. Now, I only give you that information because, not because I expect you to do that, because it's available. I'd rather you stay to the end if it's all possible, but I understand family situations, work, whatever, anything that interferes so much that you can't complete the course, then that's another option. Okay, so I've set aside a lot of time for final exam review because we're going to be covering the entire semester. I've set aside 2 days for that. So we could cover half the semester on one day and half the semester on the other, and hopefully get you ready for the final. Okay, stop me anytime, ask questions if you want. I usually ask if you see on your screen up in the corner somewhere an REC for recording. You see it? Is it recording? Okay, good. If you don't see that at any time in the future, catch me, because that means I forgot to start the recording. And that would be a waste of time to go through that whole thing and not have it recorded. Okay, let's see. These are standard things. New Rivers attendance policy is really, I don't see what value it has, right? Because since I'm giving you credit for attendance, I expect you to be here. And if you're not here, I count you absent for grading purposes. Now, as far as reporting it to the registrar or reporting it in DropGuard, I can make notes in DropGuard that it's an excused absence or something like that, so that financial aid and all those other guys will know that you're excused, and they're not supposed to start docking your aid. But for grading purposes, I don't make allowances for any absences. I mean, even if you're sick, if I weren't giving you credit for attendance, then I wouldn't care. You show up if you want to. It's going to all come out in the wash anyway, the wash being tests. Let's see. I'm going to let you guys read that stuff. Oh, bonus. I do have a couple of bonus projects at the beginning of the semester, and I'll locate those in Blackboard. There are two items that I hope will help you. One has to do with learning the periodic table and the elements and the symbols, and the other has to do with naming compounds. So I think they occur at two different locations, but early in the semester. And both of them together, averaged together, will be worth a half an exam grade. So there's good value there, and it drills you also in learning these things, learning the symbols, learning the periodic table structure, learning how to name compounds. Those are absolutely essential. If you can't do those, then you may as well drop with a W, because you'll be lost. Now, extra credit also, or bonus questions, will occur from time to time in the exams as well. Okay, so you can attempt those if you want, and make some points, particularly early in the semester, that might help you when things get more difficult toward the end. But bonuses will pop up from time to time. Makeup testing really has no meaning. I just stuck that in there. Not for an online course, right? Because you can take the test anytime you want. It's just that if you're late with a test, then there are penalties. That's it. Let's see. I think some of this is holdover from an in-seat class. I should have modified that statement, because you're not going to be in a room, right? You're not going to need all that. So that's kind of neither here nor there. Let's see. My office hours. Okay. I'll show you in Blackboard where you can find the syllabus if you haven't already found it. Also in there, you'll find a document with my schedule. And it shows you when my regularly scheduled office hours are. And you can connect with my, during those office hours, by opening a Zoom meeting. You won't get there through Blackboard. You'll have to open the Zoom meeting as a separate client. And I think I know where that is, and I'll show you when we get to, when I head for Blackboard. But this is the ID that you use right there. And there's no passcode with this one. You just, when you open the Zoom client, then it'll ask you for the ID, and you just come on in. And I should be there. If I'm not, that means some emergency has come up. And I didn't have time to tell everybody I wouldn't be there. I wouldn't rely on it too much for the first 2 weeks. Those things are kind of messy right now. Plus, for the CHEM104 lab, the second semester lab, I've got some lab demonstrations that I have to video. And I want to get those out of the way at the beginning of the semester. So I figure that's when people will only have technical difficulties. They really won't have subject matter problems. So I'll use up the office hours to complete this project, and then I'll be pretty reliable in the third week and beyond. Okay. Oh, I do give you the instructions, don't I? You can download the Zoom client from this link and install that on your computer. Then you can get into Zoom without having to go into Blackboard. And that's how you get to me with that ID. And that never changes from semester to semester. I just leave it the same. Okay, this other information is standard stuff that the school makes me put in. And then we get to the appendices. All right. So this gives you instructions on signing up for OWL homework. All right. I'm not going to go in that, stand up there and read it to you. You can read it yourself. But once you get in there, you'll find that there are two designations for the homework. One should have a suffix said graded, and another might say ungraded. The ungraded ones are just what it says. I don't see them. They're not in the grade book for Cengage that's ported over to Blackboard. So I don't see them. But the ones that say ungraded, they're there just for your practice. Okay. The ones that say graded, those are the ones you need to be sure that you complete. Let's see. The ones that say EOC, end of chapter, those are the ones I picked for graded. They look like just like the questions that are at the back of your textbook. And they'll probably have multiple choice questions. There might be some short answers. And they're one type of question. The ones that say mastery are a different animal. And they will look like this thing right here. I tried those before with a previous class, and they didn't work out too well. They were just taking too much time, and the expert program that was grading them was just way too finicky. So I cut those out. I mean, it was students knew the subject, but they were still being counted wrong. So I said, now you guys work on it a while. We'll take a look at it later. Let's see. Be sure that before you exit the homework that you submit it. Okay. And I think what it will do is it saves each time you do an answer, it might say submit that answer. So if the answer has been submitted, but the whole thing hasn't been submitted for grading, then you can leave it and come back and resume your assignment. Okay. And also in there somewhere, I think with each homework at the bottom, there might be a email instructor or email teacher. So if you run into a problem, you don't understand the question, or you think that it's counting you wrong when it should be right, then you can email me from within OWL. And what it will do is when it sends me the email, it'll send me a link that'll take me directly to that problem. And then I'll be able to see what you saw. And it saved us a lot of time bantering back and forth about what the problem was. I can see it. Oh, deadlines. The thing about Cengage homework, I think this is common for all of their applications, is that if you put in deadlines like when is the assignment available and when is the deadline, when you say deadline in their homework apps, that's when they cut it off. So you can't get back into it. And I said, that's no way to be. Suppose the student finishes on time, but for an exam, they want to go back and look at their homework again. So I put the start and end dates for every assignment, the beginning and the end of the semester. So now, once you've submitted your work, you can still go back and look at it. So don't rely on deadlines in the Cengage homework. Rely on the schedule. The schedule tells you the deadlines that have penalties associated with them. Let's see, the second appendix, this is, what is this? Oh, attending class using Zoom. Okay, so there's the one that you used today, only it was embedded in the link, of course. Let's see. These are just some etiquette. Number 3 is just things about etiquette. I have students, I don't know if you've ever taken a Blackboard exam that was proctored with Respondus Monitor and Lockdown Browser, but they make recordings of you while you're taking the tests, and and they send up flags if the system sees something that's not quite kosher. They send up a flag, and then the instructor can go look at it and say, okay, that was just a glitch, you know, they're fine. But occasionally I go in and look at them, and I've got students in their pajamas, you know, reclining on their bed. They got little ones running around or animals barking in the background. You ought to treat your attendance on any Zoom or recorded activity as you would face-to-face. Like you wouldn't come to the New River campus in your pajamas. Okay, so enough said about that. Appendix 3, oh, okay, I should have mentioned this one early on. If you don't already know how to do it, this tells you how to do side-by-side viewing so that you can see the shared screen on, you can resize them actually. You can see half your screen, if that's your choice, the shared screen, and then the other half is me, the instructor. And the reason I want you to know how to do that is because once we get into the subject matter, I don't use the whiteboard that's built into the Zoom. It's too clunky. So I use this whiteboard back here. And if I'm just a little, what do you call it? Brain freeze. If I'm just a little picture up in the corner, then you can't see what I'm doing. So if you do side by side, you can make me big enough to see what I'm doing, and you can also have the PowerPoint slides in the other shared screen, and you can see both of them at the same time. So that's what this Appendix 3 is all about. You can do it each time you log into a class, or they've got a procedure down here. You can set it up so that it'll automatically open side by side when you log in. All right, so the instructions there, you can do those when you want. You won't need it today because I'm probably not going to write on the board. Okay, that's the syllabus, and I'll stop this share unless somebody has a question. If you have a question about the syllabus, we'll scroll back up and find out what it is. Actually, I'm doing pretty good because I didn't find any errors this time through. Usually, I'll read my syllabus through half a dozen times at least before it's published. And then after it's published, I'll find mistakes. Well, I did find one mistake, didn't I? Back up here with exam etiquette. This part right here. Yeah, being in the room. Okay, I'll deal with that later. Fortunately, it's not a major mistake. I have made other mistakes, like I want to put spring 2020. Oh, I didn't point out, this is all my contact information over here in this blue box. So, and there's my personal ID again. These are office hour times. Now, if the office hour times that I've set up are not convenient, say you might be working every time that I've got office hours. If you need help, all you have to do is contact me by one of these methods, and we can set up a special Zoom session that's more convenient to you. You know, as long as I'm not someplace else. then we can meet. Probably the best way to contact me, two of the best ways, text me on my cell phone. You can email me. I have my school email is linked into my phone. So whenever one pops up in my Microsoft Office, it's instantly on my phone too, so I can see that. If you're not in a big hurry, then you can call my office phone, and obviously I won't be there because nobody's on campus. No instructors are on campus. Call my office phone and leave a message, and the system converts your message into a voice file and sends it to me on my email. I had one student do that yesterday. I got the message. I was in Sam's Club, I think, but I got the message, and as soon as I was able to respond. So I usually get back to you within an hour, unless I'm, busy washing the dog or cooking chili or something. Okay. I believe that's it for the syllabus. We can go into Blackboard next. And I assume everybody is sort of taking a rough look at Blackboard, and I'll go in and point some things out that, let's see. Yeah, we're good on time. That you may have missed. And of course, when you go into Blackboard as a student, there's some things in there you won't see right away, right? Because I've got that adaptive release thing, and it won't open the exams yet. So what I can do is go in as instructor and show you what the exam structure is going to be, what it looks like in Blackboard. Okay, so now I want to share my something. I think it's this one. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'm going to have to, once I get into launching a Zoom session, it doesn't like to go backwards. So so there's the landing page. Oh, this is a good thing I'm here. If you go to My New River as a student, I think you have access to some things. You have to log in, of course. Now mine's going to look a little different than yours, but there should be some things in common, like there's student self-service. You might be able to see that. There's a Blackboard link. Should be Zoom. You should be able to get to Zoom from here. And when you go to Zoom from here, that's where you can access my office hours. And then I think these are probably, I don't know. I've never been into the student side, so I'm not sure how they look. But it's worth a look. May even have your grades in there. Okay, so Blackboard. Everybody knows how to get to Blackboard. And then I don't like the way this comes up, so I always go to courses. Makes more sense. And then I go down to my course, of course. And there we go. So you get started here with Start Here. Right? And then maybe I should point out some things in the left-hand panel. Start Here, New River email. I put this link in here because if you go to that one, it shows you everybody that's in your class. Say you only want to contact one person. So you go down to single user, and then you just pick out somebody from the class. You don't have to look through the entire directory for the college to find somebody. If they're in your class, then they'll be here. And I use that a lot to contact the class. That way I don't have to do any digging. And then you'll notice the breadcrumbs here at the top. You can go backwards as many steps as you want. So I can go back out here, and there's your Zoom connection. This is stuff that they wanted just to put on their browsers inside Blackboard for what do you do if you think you've been exposed to COVID, right? So that's there. This other stuff you won't see. I don't use all these functions. It's just way too complicated. I like start here. You'll have some tools, some helps there, but the real fun starts once you click start here. And there's the syllabus. You should be able to see the syllabus and my schedule there. You just click on them, they pop up in a separate window, and then you can download them if you want. So there's my schedule. And then you just go over to, let me see, I've got some things in the way, let me move them out. Then you go to this download, or you can just straight print it to get your copy. Okay, so we'll back out a little bit. These are supposed to be organized so that the first things first. These are helpful documents and PowerPoints for how to get into OWL, set up OWL, work with OWL. I mean, if you've used these types of systems before, most of them, they have a lot of commonalities. So you can look at that if you want. Let's see. There's some more things. These might be useful, especially this one with using CHEM101. Some of the questions in your OWL homework require you do some drawing or manipulate some atoms and build molecules maybe. And they use a micro app called CHEM101. So this tells you how it works. So you may want to take a look at that. That tells you how to access, this tells you how to access your grades in OWL. But those may not be the grade that you see in Blackboard. Depending on whether there were some late penalties, or I can modify, once your grade is in Blackboard, if I see a problem with OWL, like they mark something wrong, it's easier rather than try to get OWL to fix it. Rather than try to get OWL to fix it, I repair it in Blackboard. Okay, so those are useful. That's useful information. Here's your syllabus test, right? So if you click on this one, it's not restricted. This is where you start with your testing. So if you go into syllabus test, right? So it's going to look like this, and there's some preliminary information. Even though it says there's a 20-minute time limit, none of your exams, if they say you have a time limit, well, actually, this is the only one where you're going to need to know the time limit because of the way that I'm doing the exams in this course. So never mind. It's just 20 minutes is just, I just picked that out of the air. It doesn't matter really. It's not going to shut down if you take longer than 20 minutes. And then you just begin it, and it'll come up with these questions, right? And it shows you how many points there are, and you can save each answer, right? If they're short answers, you have to type something in, then it's not going to grade it immediately. It's just going to pop up in my grade book and tell me that you finished it, and then I'll go in and look at it and assign the points. So I can give you partial credit for some of them. Of course, the multiple choice ones, the system will grade those for me. The true false will grade it for me. So those are potential. True false questions I tend to shy away from, but in this case, it really tells me whether you paid attention and you've read through the syllabus, because it may not be the answer you think it is. I need to correct this one before. Don't anybody take it yet, because I had to reschedule the test. So this Zoom meeting ID is going to be different. In fact, the real one's not even there. So give me a few minutes after class and I'll fix that first. The reason I have a different Zoom ID now than I did before when I made the test was I was looking in Blackboard, looking in Zoom, and say, wait a minute, I've got it scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday. This class meets on Monday and Wednesdays. So I had to delete that one and create a new one. That's why I have a different ID. So I'll fix that. Just give me a few minutes. Say, wait till after we do our a lab meeting right after this, and then I'll fix it. I'm glad I went in there because I never would have realized that. I would have had to give everybody credit for that one because that's my mistake. And that's what I tell, if we were face-to-face in class, I know I would tell everybody, you are not going to suffer from my mistakes. If I'm making a mistake on an exam or some other place that could potentially cost you points, it won't. Because that's my, I think they say that's my bad. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right to my ears. But I know what it means. Okay, so I'm gonna close that window because I'm not gonna take that test. Okay, so you've got the course schedule here, right? Duplicated from the syllabus. So you don't have to dig out your syllabus every time you want to find it. You can get a copy of Microsoft Office 365 if you don't already have one. But I just found out recently that this copy is a really stupid copy. They have chopped out a lot of the functionality of the applications. And in particular, the one that bugged me the most was Excel. Because I had scheduled the first lab to be Excel for scientists. You know, how would you use Excel to streamline your work? And so when you gather data from your lab assignments, you can use Excel to help you process that data. But this app doesn't have all the functionality that I need. So I've actually changed lab exercise number 1. So we don't need Excel anymore. But if you can afford it, and most places that you go to buy Microsoft Office will have a student pricing scale. I think they put them together. Student/instructor pricing scale, which is significantly cheaper than the full market value. So if you can afford it, and you don't already have it, Microsoft Office is good. I just don't go for Microsoft Office 365 at home because I just don't like the way it's set up. So I'm using an older version. But standalone. I don't like that intrusive way that they install 365 and then keep it updated. It might be good for some people, but I'm more self-reliant when computers come. Okay, so that's your choice. I think that's a link to the ebook. And if you've got Cengage Unlimited, you should have access to that. But I haven't checked it recently, so I'm really not sure. Here's a direct link to the homework. I would use this one the first time you go in and register for OWL. Because thereafter, I've got in each of the modules below, I've got direct links for each of the chapters. All right, so that bypasses all the preliminary stuff you have to go through to get to the chapter homework. I'll show it to you in just a second. Supplemental documents, extra stuff. I don't even remember what I put in here. Yeah, we've got documents on naming compounds. You won't need those right away, just shortly. Periodic tables, there are a whole bunch of different periodic tables. I think See these grayed out ones? As an instructor, I can say, I don't want students to see those, so I grade those out. This is probably the one you want. That's the one that you'll, or one like it, that you'll see. You might see that on the exams, I'm not sure. But this is the complete one. Okay? No more placeholders down here for the really high number ones. These guys all have names now. And that probably doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it will. Okay. Periodic tables, solubility, stoichiometry. You'll come back and look at those later. They won't mean anything to you right now. Okay, what's next? All right. So each of the exams is divided into separate folders. So the first exam is going to be here like this. I'll come back to this in just a second. I have maintained all of the recorded videos for previous classes on these topics. So you can view the older ones if you want. Say you want to look at it before you actually come to class and make the recording with me for the current semester. You can go look at these. Here's your PowerPoints. All right, so there's chapter 1, there's chapter 2. Notice I have three different flavors. If you have Microsoft Office, then you can open this PowerPoint slide set and look at them just like you were the instructor. If you're away from your computer, you don't have access to, or you're on a different computer and don't have access to Microsoft PowerPoint, then you can call up the PDF and see the slides. They just won't have animations. They won't have video connections. None of the links will work, but you'll still get to see them. And then this was a good one too. This one is written in browser language, HTML5. So as long as you have a browser and you have access to this, if you click it, it'll pop up like that, and you can run through the slides inside your browser. Okay? I've used that in class before when my PowerPoints weren't working. I just go into the course and pick the browser and throw it up on the screen. This is an older version, but it still works the same way for chapter 2. So that's the introduction of the information there. And then we have reviews. These are good to have. Okay, we are going to name compounds in our first, that's probably chapter 2. Let me check to be sure. Yep. Okay, so for those, the extra credit exercises that I alluded to earlier are these two: getting to know the periodic table, which is basically a blank periodic table that you fill in. And the instructions are given in the document, how I want it filled in, and you can get extra credit. Name these compounds. Once we get through chapter 2, then you'll have the rules and name these compounds, and you can get extra credit for that. Now, what do you do with it? Well, you're going to have to complete the periodic table by hand. That's the only way to do it, with colored pencils preferably. They work the best. So you call up the document. Well, you open the assignment, I should say. Now the document is also here. But notice that before I do that, let me show you where. Once you finish it, all you have to do is go down to Attach Files, browse your computer, and attach the completed work, and then submit it right down here in the right-hand corner, lower right-hand corner. Okay, now to get the document, you just click on the document, it opens in a separate page, and you can download it. So these are your instructions and the points that are assigned to each one of the accomplished tasks. So there are a lot of them. This is your blank periodic table. and you just fill it out based on these instructions. You probably want to at least wait until I introduce the, hold on a second. Just occurred to me, something just occurred to me. Let me see. Okay. A lot of this is just going to be busy work, I think, because we don't get to the structure of the periodic table until chapter 7. But what I'm getting at is I'm trying to help you learn the symbols. Okay? And one way to do that is to have to fill out the table. But you'll also need to memorize some of the symbols. Let me back out of this. Let's see, back out. I need to go one more. Here we go. Learn these element symbols. All right. This has another periodic table. Right here, click on that one. And notice that this one has elements with red box around them. Those are the only ones that you need to memorize. Now, when you fill out the periodic table for the extra credit, if you do that, then you'll need all of these symbols. But you won't need to know the names of the elements. You can just put in the symbols. But I do want you to memorize the names for each of these symbols, excuse me. The ones that are in red boxes and they sort of have a pink background. Okay, it's about half of them. Most of them are up here in the top part of the table. There are a couple down here. These are for historical reasons, like uranium and plutonium, right? They were responsible for destroying a couple of cities in Japan at the end of World War II. Okay. So once you've got those memorized, then you know chemistry alphabet. Right? We can't build sentences, or we can't build words, which are compounds, and we can't write sentences, which are analogous to reaction equations, until we know the letters of our alphabet. And these that are in red will give you everything you need to complete the semester. You'll notice also that there's some of them that have these blue background, right? H over here for hydrogen, and nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. The reason those have blue in the background, it won't mean a lot right now, but later it will, is because those elements are diatomic. In other words, at 1 atmosphere pressure and room temperature, I am going to use my board. When you see that element written under those conditions, it will always be written with a 2 subscript, which means there are 2 atoms hooked together at 1 atmosphere pressure and room temperature. So if you read a word problem that says such and such a compound was reacted with oxygen to yield something else, if that's all it says, then in order to write the reaction equation, you need to know that oxygen is diatomic. If you write just O, then your equation will never balance. So it's important that you recognize these. And notice hydrogen's off by itself. And then these are in an upside down L, right? Just start with nitrogen, you go over here and down like that. These don't count because those are noble gases. They don't play well with anybody. They're always single elements, always and forever. Well, almost forever. They've been forced to react with some things, but we'll cover that later. Okay. So let me go back to, here we go. Go back here. And that was the periodic table that'll tell you which elements you need to memorize. We were in review, I think. Okay. And we had the extra credits there. And this review folder. Let's see. Okay, yeah. What you'll find in the review folders are up to three documents, sometimes only two, but I think usually three. One of them will be a PDF file that's set up as a form, so you can fill it out. And it looks just like an exam. See, the structure is exactly like an exam. So you just fill in the answers here. Or if we get down to, let me see, this first one may not have any short answers in it. It could be all multiple choice. Notice there are a lot of them. That doesn't mean that the exam is going to be this long. This is a review. So I'm trying to give you as much practice as possible. Okay, here we got some fill in the blanks. Right. There we go. And this is for chapter 1 and 2. So when you get to chapter 2, if we've only covered chapter 1, don't bother with chapter 2, right? Not until we've covered the material. Then you know how to answer the questions. And what many of my students have done in the past is to treat this as an exam and just print it out, or you can fill it as a form. Of course, you can't save it. But then check your answers with the other document that's in there, the key. The key looks just like it, only it has the answers. Okay? Now, sometimes you'll get down here and you say, this key says this is the answer, but I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense. So I got a third document. This one's in my handwriting. Occasionally I skip a few that just aren't worthy of attention. But most of them will have an explanation for the answer. Okay, how I arrived at the answer. Anybody seen that movie, Young Frankenstein? It's kind of old, but they show it every now and then. Notice when he's down, when Frankenstein is down in the private library, and he looks on the shelf and there's a book and it says, How I Did It. I thought that was always funny. Well, this is how I did it. Okay, so this has got how the problems were worked. It may not be the only way to work a problem, but it's the one that I did at the time I created this document. And what we may do is during class, in review sessions, we may look at alternate ways to solve problems, right? So you can compare them with these, because generally what I do during a review session is I take the review document and then I open the floor up for problems. Students tell me, all right, I had a problem with this one question. I'll work it. I want to get those done first in case we run out of time. And then when you've all run out of questions, then I'll go back and say, well, I think this is important, this is important. So I'll pick out a few and we'll work them. And the reason there's so many of them is my other motto, which goes something like this. Your two best friends in this class are curiosity and boredom. If you're curious, then you're always looking for the answer. You want to know why something, why does that answer? Why did you get that answer? What does this have to do with the universe? And the other is boredom. If you're bored working a problem, that means you've worked enough of them. It looks familiar. You've been over it before. You can answer that kind of problem just like that. It's flip a switch. So curiosity and boredom are your two best friends in this class. Okay, so that's the way the review folders look. You'll have that. Now these grayed out ones, you won't see those when you when you come into them as a student. In fact, I could use a student preview, and that would show you, this is what you're going to see, right? And then we could go down to, back to exam 1, right? You'll only see these things. See, I've got a lot of recorded sessions there, previous semesters. The older they are, probably the less quality they are, because my equipment wasn't too good in the beginning. So I'd work with the most recent ones and work backwards. Then review, and that's what you're going to see. All right. And we go in here. Of course, you'll see all of those. All right. So what else? There was one other folder in here that I didn't get to. Let me go down. Homework. Notice that in homework, I have direct connections. So if you click on that, you go straight to chapter 1 homework. End of chapter. End of chapter. Once you're in there, you can move around and you can look for ungraded material or other resources that are provided. Right? And that's up to you. Use them if you want to. These are the ones that are graded, and I need to see those by the deadline. Okay, so let me exit the preview. Oh, before I do that, while we're still looking at it as a student, let's go down. Each of these exam folders look alike, just like that. But notice inside the exam folder, there were no exams. That's where I would have put the Blackboard exams, but I don't have those yet. So what do you do for exam 1? Okay, we'll go down here and wait a minute. Oh, they're not open yet. Excuse me. My bad. Let's exit the preview. And back in the instructor. Now I can show you all the exams that you will see eventually as you complete them one at a time. So we'll go on down past these. Now we have, no, they are inside. Excuse me. Here. Yes. My bad again. Inside each exam folder, you do have an exam folder. And once you've completed the one before it, this folder will open up. You can go in and here's where you find the exam. Click on that and it'll bring up this familiar structure for assignments, right? You have the document here and then you have a place to submit it once you've completed it, okay? So if I call this up, if I click on it, then there's the exam, and that's enough. But once you've got it, you can download it. In fact, before you complete it, you need to download it. You cannot successfully complete that document in the browser. It just won't work. I've had students that try and can't figure out why it doesn't save their answers. Once you download the document, it's in, notice this suffix, it says savable. I've got a full version of Adobe Acrobat, and I can create these things in a forum that will allow you to go into the document through Acrobat Reader, right? Reader is just that simple free tool that Adobe provides that allows you to read PDF files. But I've created it in such a fashion that you can fill it out and save it. And when you save it, then you can submit it. Now, there are other options for submitting exams, and I probably should mention these because some computer systems they're just not very friendly. So you need alternate ways to submit, to do the work. What you may have to do, I hope you don't have to, but if you do, you can print the document, fill it out by hand, and then photograph it. Or you can scan it. If you have a multifunction printer, you'll have a scanning ability. You can scan it into a PDF file and submit that. Or you can photograph it. If you have an iPhone, I think it comes built in with a PDF conversion type of program. There's also one for Android phones. I forget the name. Let me look it up. Let's see. Where did I put it? Nope, that's not it. Well, Cam Scanner. I just remembered. There's several of them, but the one I can remember is called Cam Scanner that works on Android phones. And what it will do is you can photograph a page and then tell it one more page, one more page, one more page. And then you can tell it all of those pages go into a PDF file. And then you can submit that PDF file, because I'm going to have to grade these things by hand anyway. So you can submit them any way you want. But that's my stopgap for exams until I can get them into a format that Blackboard will proctor for me. Does anybody have any questions about that method? You may have later once you get started. Let's see. Okay, so there and there. So each one will have one of these folders in here. And I try to put instructions down here, but they may be dated. So I'll try to take a look at them ahead of time and be sure that, let me see, did I put, back up. No, I didn't. Oh, here we go. PDF readers. Let me move this up, because you need this before you do anything else. Let's put it up here. These are free PDF readers. You can either get one that through this link, it'll take you to Adobe Acrobat. You can get the free reader. The only thing with these free things, you have to be careful when you install them, because they'll try to install junk. So just be careful. And if there's an option to uncheck the junk install, be sure and do that. If Adobe Acrobat is not your flavor, Foxbit is a good one too, a PDF reader. And you can read, you can print. In the case of an exam, you can save, and that way you can submit a saved file. What you may also want to do, here's a hybrid version. Take the savable exam that you've downloaded, go into Reader, and fill out the multiple choice ones, and then print it. And then you can do the rest of them. Like you may have to draw a structure, or you may have to short answer, write a formula. And if you do, then at that point, you won't have had to go in and answer the multiple choice by hand. That's just options. Okay, let's see. Did I miss anything? End of chapter problems. If you want to do the end of chapter problems that are in the textbook, these are all the solutions, all the answers. I've got external links to self-help. There are a lot of them, so I'll try to put them in order. Let's say I should put this one first. Khan Academy is probably the best one right now. Mr. Causey's okay if you can listen fast, because he talks fast. Flashcards. These are online element flashcards. So you can use an online version that will test your knowledge of the element names and symbols. Let's move that one up. Yeah. And the rest of them, these might be useful. in your spare time, right? Everybody's got spare time, huh? You can check out these. If you don't already know Khan Academy. There was another one I was going to put in here. Let's see, what is that guy's name? Professor Dave. If you look up Professor Dave, he does lots of stuff, math, chemistry, physics. Sometimes it's important to get a different perspective. Somebody explain it a different way, because all it takes is for that light bulb to go on once, and then you've got it. And my explanations may not be complete. They might not click with you in some cases. So having somebody else explain it could be helpful. Okay, any questions? We're ahead of time, but I feel like I'm beating a dead horse now. Let's see if I missed anything. I probably ought to put a link in here for those cam scanner type apps too. But when you submit your work, a lot of stuff we've gone over in the lecture side will translate over into the lab side. So when we talk about if you come back at 3:45 for the lab orientation, some of this stuff will be old. Okay, so I'll stop the share. Okay, I'm back. Let's see, did anybody else show up while I was talking? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Somebody did come in. Ah, Amy. Gotcha. How about Hannah? Is Hannah here? Hannah. No, Hannah didn't make it. Okay. All right, so just to repeat myself, as soon as we close this meeting and the recording is available, I'll process it so that I can upload it to YouTube. And then I put a link to YouTube in Blackboard. And that's how you access the recordings, the old recordings, is through YouTube. Okay, anything else? No special questions, problems, fears? I'm sure you'll have
anyway.
I'm sorry?
To say not yet anyway.
Okay, yeah, they'll come. Right, if this is your first time in chemistry, you'll definitely have questions. Or if it's been a long time since you took chemistry, say you had it back in high school and you've had some time off, you know, and wanted to experience life for a while, and then you come back to college and things kind of fade. Yeah, I understand. I mean, I'm 67 and I can feel my mind going sometimes. That's one of the reasons I started teaching, because it stimulates your mind, you know, keeps you alert. Okay, well, I'll, for those of you who want to, come back at 3:45, go to CHEM103 in Blackboard, go to the Zoom connector on the left-hand side of the page and select the meeting, and it'll bring you into the session that I'm going to open up at 3:45. And we'll talk about labs then. Okay.
All right.
We'll see you then.
All right. See ya.